Right now, from the device in your hand, you can send money to anyone on Earth. No bank, no government, no company, no permission required. It settles in minutes. Nobody can counterfeit it, nobody can reverse it, and nobody, not even the most powerful institution on the planet, can freeze it or shut it down. That is Bitcoin, and by every rule of how money used to work, it should not be possible. So over the next several minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how it works, every component, each idea building on the last, until the entire system clicks into place. By the end of this video, you'll understand the problem Bitcoin was invented to solve, and why banks couldn't solve it. What a blockchain actually is, in plain English, no jargon. Hashing, the piece of math that makes cheating impossible. Public and private keys, how you own money that's just numbers. Mining, what those giant computer farms are really doing. Why it's basically impossible to hack, and what a 51% attack is. And finally, we'll follow one Bitcoin transaction from start to finish, so you see the whole machine working together. You need no background in finance or computing. We begin from absolute zero and add one piece at a time, and by the end you'll understand this better than most people who own it. To really understand Bitcoin, set Bitcoin aside for a moment and start with a problem. Suppose I want to send you $100 online. What actually happens behind the scenes? No physical cash travels anywhere. Instead, my bank edits a number in its database, subtracting 100 from my balance, while your bank adds 100 to yours. And that reveals something most people never stop to consider. Digital money is not an object, it is simply a record of who owns what. That record is called a ledger. The bank maintains the ledger, the bank acts as referee, and the whole arrangement rests on one thing: trusting the bank to keep that record honest. But concentrating that trust in one institution creates problems. First, it holds power over you. A bank can freeze your account, reverse a payment, or block a transaction it simply doesn't approve of. The second problem runs deeper, and it's the one that defeated every earlier attempt at digital cash. It's called the double spending problem. A digital file can be copied perfectly, endlessly. That's wonderful for photos and music. For money, it's fatal. If a coin is just data, what stops me from copying it and spending the same $100 twice or 1,000 times? In the traditional system, the bank prevents this. Because its ledger is the single source of truth, it simply rejects the second spend. But notice the cost: every payment now depends on a trusted middleman sitting in between. Which leads to the question that, back in 2008, seemed almost impossible to answer. Could we create digital money with no one in charge, and yet make cheating impossible for everyone? That October, an anonymous figure writing under the name Satoshi Nakamoto released a 9-page paper that answered yes, solving a puzzle that had stumped computer scientists for decades. What follows is that solution, rebuilt piece by piece, starting now. The central idea is elegant. Rather than one bank holding one private ledger, what if everyone held an identical copy of the same ledger, fully public, visible to all? Imagine a town with no bank, just an enormous open notebook in the square that anyone can read, and a perfect copy of that notebook in every resident's pocket. Now if someone quietly alters their own copy to fake a payment, it no longer matches the thousands of others. The town compares notes, spots the disagreement, and discards the version that stands alone. That, in a single sentence, is a blockchain. A shared, public ledger that thousands of computers worldwide each hold and continuously agree upon. But this picture raises 3 serious problems, and Bitcoin's brilliance lies in how it answers all 3. 1. If anyone can write in the notebook, how do we stop people spending other people's money? 2. Once it's written, how do we make sure nobody can secretly change the past? 3. With thousands of copies, how does everyone agree on the one true version, with no boss to decide? Solve these 3 and you have built Bitcoin, so let's take them one at a time. Problem 1. The ledger is public and anyone can broadcast a payment. So what stops me from simply announcing that, say, Elon Musk just paid me 1 million coins? We need a signature that is genuinely impossible to forge, and that is where the first piece of real mathematics enters: public key cryptography. In Bitcoin, every user holds a matched pair of keys, two long strings of characters generated together. The public key you may share with the entire world, think of it as an account number. The private key you protect absolutely, it is the secret that must never be revealed to anyone. Here is the analogy that makes it intuitive. Picture a mailbox standing on the street. The slot on top is your public address. Anyone at all can drop money in, and you can advertise that address openly with no risk whatsoever. But the locked door is your private key. Only the holder of that key can open the box and remove what's inside, so anyone can pay you, yet only you can spend. When Alice sends Bob 5 coins, her software runs the payment's details through a mathematical operation using her private key, producing a unique code called a digital signature. This signature has two remarkable properties. It could only have been generated by Alice's private key, and yet anyone can confirm it is valid using her public key without that private key ever being exposed. And the signature is bound to that exact payment. Alter a single detail, the amount or the recipient, and the signature instantly fails verification. So problem 1 is solved. You cannot spend funds that aren't yours because you lack the private key needed to authorize them. And it gives us the first rule of this world: not your keys, not your coins. Your private key effectively is your money. Lose it and the funds are gone permanently. There is no password reset and no one to call. Good, forgeries are impossible. But what about the past? What stops someone from reopening an old record and quietly turning a 5 into a 50? To prevent that, Bitcoin relies on its single most important tool, the hash function. A hash function behaves like a mathematical blender. Feed in anything at all, a word, an entire library, a film, and it returns a fixed-length string of characters called the hash or digital fingerprint. Property 1, it is deterministic. The same input always produces exactly the same output. Hash the word Bitcoin, and you and everyone else will get the identical result, every single time. Property 2, extreme sensitivity. Change the input by the smallest amount and the output changes entirely. Watch, I lowercase 1 letter, and the fingerprint becomes completely unrecognizable. Cryptographers call this the avalanche effect. Property 3, and this is the essential one, it runs in only one direction. Given a hash, there is no way to work backwards to the input. Your only option is to keep trying inputs until one happens to match. Hold on to that idea, it becomes vital in a moment. So how does a fingerprint make the past unchangeable? This is where we finally construct the actual chain inside the word blockchain. Bitcoin groups recent transactions into a block, a single page of the ledger. When a block is sealed, every transaction inside it is hashed together into one fingerprint. Here is the decisive move. Each block also contains the fingerprint of the block before it. Every block is therefore cryptographically bound to its predecessor, like interlocking links in a chain. Now watch the cheat fail. Suppose the attacker reopens block 1 and edits a single figure. By the avalanche effect, block 1's fingerprint changes completely. But block 2 still stores the original fingerprint, so the two no longer match and the chain visibly breaks. To repair block 2 they must recompute it, which breaks block 3 then 4, cascading all the way to the present. Altering one old transaction means redoing every block that followed it, while the rest of the network keeps adding new ones. As we're about to see, that is effectively impossible. The chain protects the past. Now the hardest problem of the three. Thousands of computers called nodes are spread across the globe, each holding the ledger. Someone must collect the newest transactions into the next block, but who gets to decide? In banking, the bank decides. But we deliberately removed the bank, that was the entire point. So with no authority in charge, how does the whole world settle on one shared version of history? Satoshi's answer was to make creating a block deliberately expensive, so costly in real-world effort that rewriting history becomes impractical. The mechanism is called proof of work, and those who perform it are called miners. Set aside the word mining, no one is digging anything up. Mining is really a vast guessing competition, a global lottery. A miner assembles the latest transactions together with the previous block's fingerprint. Then they add one adjustable number to the block, called the nonce, simply a number used once. They hash the entire block, aiming to satisfy a strict condition The resulting hash must begin with a certain number of zeros. But recall, you cannot aim a hash and you cannot reverse one. The only path is to guess. Adjust the nonce hash, check, wrong, adjust it again and repeat. Across the network, miners perform this trillions upon trillions of times every second, all competing. No shortcuts, no cleverness, only raw computation. Then, eventually, somewhere in the world, one miner gets lucky. Their nonce yields a hash with exactly the required run of leading zeros. And here is the elegant asymmetry. Finding that answer demands an astronomical number of attempts, but verifying it is instant. Every other node plugs in the nonce, hashes once, sees the zeros and accepts the block. This is the steady pulse of Bitcoin. Roughly every 10 minutes a new block is discovered and appended, worldwide, with no central server and no one in command. And if hardware grows faster, the network compensates on its own. About every 2 weeks it recalibrates the difficulty, raising or lowering the number of required zeros, holding that 10-minute rhythm steady indefinitely. The system continually rebalances itself. Problem 3 solved. But wait, all this guessing consumes enormous electricity and costly hardware. Why would anyone spend real money to enter this lottery in the first place? Because the winner is paid, and that reward is the engine that keeps the entire network running without anyone directing it. Each time a miner wins a block, they receive 2 things. First, the block reward, freshly issued bitcoins, created by the protocol itself. This is the only way new bitcoins ever enter circulation. Second, the transaction fees. Every payment includes a small fee to compete for inclusion, and the winning miner collects them all. In short, behaving honestly is precisely how a miner profits. Now a detail that sits at the very heart of Bitcoin's value. The total supply is capped forever at 21 million coins. That limit is written into the protocol and cannot be altered by any company or government. And issuance is cut in half roughly every 4 years, an event known as the halving. It began at 50 coins per block, then 25, then 12.5, and following 2024, 3.125. The halvings continue until, around the year 2140, the final fraction is mined. This is why people call it digital gold, except that unlike gold, we know the precise maximum that will ever exist. No surprises, only code. Let's give our attacker one final attempt. To rewrite history, they would have to redo the proof of work for a block, and every block after it, faster than the entire rest of the network combined. Achieving that would require commanding more than half of all the mining power on Earth, the scenario known as a 51% attack. Consider the scale, more computing power and electricity than entire nations, costing many billions of dollars. It is the equivalent of having to be stronger than every other person on the planet at once. And here is the most elegant part. Even someone who could afford it would have no reason to attack. With that much power, mining honestly would earn far more, and any visible attack would collapse confidence and the price, leaving the stolen coins worthless. So Bitcoin's security rests not on a password to be cracked, but on mathematics and economics aligned, so that honesty is the most profitable strategy. It is why, in more than 15 years, the Bitcoin network itself has never been breached. Let me be precise though, the network has never been hacked, yet people are compromised constantly. Exchanges are breached, keys are lost, users fall for scams. The mathematics is flawless, people are not. So if Bitcoin is merely entries in a shared ledger, what does it actually mean to own some, and where is it really kept? Here is the surprise, your Bitcoins are not stored on your phone at all. They exist only on the blockchain, the public ledger replicated across the entire world. What your wallet actually stores is your private key. If the blockchain is a vast wall of public mailboxes, your private key is the single key that opens yours and lets you spend what it holds. Because private keys are far too long to memorize, wallets give you a seed phrase, an ordered list of 12 or 24 ordinary words. That phrase is the master backup of every key you hold. Write it on paper, store it somewhere safe, and never enter it into a random website. Anyone who obtains your seed phrase controls your money outright, and there is no bank to call and no password to reset. Lose your keys and the coins are locked away permanently. In this system, you are your own bank. That is the freedom Bitcoin offers and the responsibility it demands. Now you've seen every component. Let's watch them operate together by following a single payment, from the instant Alice presses send to the moment it is fixed in history. Step 1. In her wallet, Alice enters Bob's address and the amount, 1 Bitcoin. Her wallet signs the transaction with her private key, proving it came from her without ever exposing that key. Step 2. The signed transaction is broadcast to thousands of nodes worldwide. Each one verifies the signature against Alice's public key and confirms she genuinely holds the coins. Step 3. The transaction waits in a holding area of unconfirmed payments called the mempool, alongside everyone else's. The fee Alice attached signals to miners that hers is worth including. Step 4. A miner gathers Alice's transaction together with thousands of others into a candidate block, attaches the previous block's fingerprint, and begins the guessing game, cycling the nonce in search of a hash full of leading zeros. Step 5. One miner succeeds and broadcasts the winning block. Every node verifies it in an instant and appends it to their copy of the chain. Alice's payment is now recorded on the blockchain. Step 6. As further blocks stack on top of hers, the transaction is buried ever deeper and grows steadily harder to reverse. After a handful of confirmations, it is regarded as final and irreversible. And that is the whole journey. No bank touched it, no government approved it, no company could halt it, only mathematics, code, and thousands of strangers keeping one another honest, automatically. That is Bitcoin. Let's consolidate everything in a single pass, the complete picture you now hold. Bitcoin solves the double spending problem without a bank, using a shared public ledger, the blockchain. Private keys sign your payments, so nobody can spend your money. Hashing acts as a fingerprint, chaining blocks so the past can't be changed. Mining is a global guessing game that lets strangers agree on one history, with no boss. Miners are paid in new bitcoins and fees, and only 21 million will ever exist. And it's secured not by a firewall, but by math and economics, making honesty more profitable than cheating. For the first time in history, humanity found a way to agree on who owns what, across the entire planet, without trusting any single authority to keep the books. That idea is genuinely new, and it is not going away. You arrived knowing nothing about this. You're leaving with a clearer understanding of it than almost everyone around you. If this finally made Bitcoin make sense, please leave a like. It genuinely helps the video reach the next person who's been quietly afraid to ask. And subscribe, because next we'll break down another complex idea the very same way from zero. Tell me in the comments the one idea that finally clicked for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.